Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday morning. We are not late. You are just early. Howdy, howdy. Howdy, howdy, howdy. You were 15 seconds late. No, you're just 15 seconds early, my friend. That's how this works. I am never late, okay? That is the rule number one, okay? Rule number one is that I'm never late. Easy peasy. That's right. This isn't real. You can't be late. True. Exactly. Don't make me clip it. Clip it and ship it, my friend. Okay? And title it. Streamer thinks that he is... a streamer thinks that he is time itself. How's it going, Kevin? How's it going, Full Stop Terry? How's it going, Astro? Hey, Thundera, how's it going? Alright. And Troma, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. I've been working on a couple of different things here. Can everybody hear me okay? Yikes. Hope you're doing alright, Kevin. Cold 7 degrees Celsius with sunny intervals and getting colder. Oof. Alright, folks, we gotta kind of hit the ground running just a little bit. Just a tad bit. Oh, come on.
Not only would 50 to 56%.
Whoa. Okay. Hold on, folks. Just getting myself together. Okay. It's been getting warmer here. Trees are starting to blossom. Nice. We have talk of snow tomorrow. Oof. I have yet to still see snow. Howdy, howdy, KTS. How's it going? New York had a cold snap, and a lot of the plants are sad looking now. Oof. Yikes. All right, folks, we got to hit the ground running. We've got plenty of stuff to cover here, and well, I got some of it up, so let's get going. New York is so much further south than London. Oof. I think this one should be first. Folks, the other day we went over a horrible email sent that was leaked, I guess, by Applebee's, which actually we can, just for context and just so that we have all of this. Just for context. I don't know if you can read that down there, but we'll send a link to the tweet itself. Here we go. I was reminded today as an American, any terrible thing we do will be world news within hours. I was reminded today, within hours, my friend from Thailand said Will Smith would have never slapped Bruce Willis, or Joe Rogan. That's funny. What do you think will happen if the Progressive Caucus held up every bill until we get what we want in it? I don't know if they can, really. I don't know if they can hold up every single bill. Can they? I think that's the implicit, kind of implicit threat, right? Like, okay, you can try to hold up every bill, but you have no power here, is what I understand. They have enough to hold up bills? I don't know. It sounds to me like the same reason why something like force the vote wouldn't work necessarily. It gives me that kind of scenario. It just depends on what bill. Until what bill? Maybe holding up something like I don't know, an extension to the defense budget. That might be useful. Because you have to pass that. I use that in very strong air quotations. So I would have to see what bill would be held up, because it may end up just being it may just end up backfiring. Anything to get us anything. I want them to use their power and stop getting shat on. Yeah, but the problem is 12, not enough. Not enough to really have a enough of an impact. Maybe to hold up bills, but it just depends on the bill. For example, the military budget, should they hold the entirety of it? Maybe they can get concessions, but I'm not sure. Because then it gets turned around and said, look, these progressives are the ones that are holding everything up. It's their fault. It's their fault why nothing is getting done. Never mind what we're doing or not doing. I don't know. I would have to see the situation, but it just depends, I guess. I asked her why Joe Rogan would survive the slap, and she said because he shaves his head like a warrior. What? Ah, yes. Shaving your head gives you a +5 defense. Joe Manchin can do it, so can they. That's a good point. That's a good point. We'll get to him in a second, but that's a good point. That is a very good point. Maybe I'm missing something. Joe Manchin also has nothing to lose. Like how the boomers do, or we won't ever get anywhere. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Maybe that's true. The Freedom or America First caucus has done more. Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. They're definitely more effective. Not for the better, not for the better, but certainly more effective at enacting their agenda, anyways. All right, folks. We gotta get through this story. Applebee's franchise executive. This is the leaked email to set the stage up. Yeah. If you can't read it, I put the link in there. Everyone has heard that gas prices continue to rise. The advantage this has for us is that it will increase application flow and potential to lower our average wage. How? By tapping into the desperation of people and exploiting them. That's how. We went over this the other day. But yeah, just as a refresher, most of our employee base and potential employee base live paycheck to paycheck. An increase in gas prices cuts into their disposable income. As inflation continues to climb and gas prices continue to go up, that means more hours employees will need to work to maintain their current levels of living, i.e., hey, food, a roof over your head. We are no longer competing with the government when it comes to hiring. Good meme. Stimulus money is no more. Good meme. Supplemental income is no more. Supplemental unemployment is no more. Good meme. Anyways, the point is, they want to tap into the desperation of people because of the failures of, the way capitalism ends up in the direction that it moves, in the direction that it ends up moving in, right? This is how it works. This is what they think. So, that being said, an atrocious email, which it is, caused a mass resignation at a Kansas Applebee's. Employees are starting to become aware of what's happening, of how their executives think of them, how their company thinks of them. Five hours into Jake Holcomb's shift as the manager at Applebee's in Lawrence, Kansas, last Monday, a coworker came in to eat with a friend and asked him if he'd seen the, quote, email. Holcomb's colleague was referring to the now infamous message from Wayne Pankratz, an executive at the franchise group that operates Lawrence Restaurant and a dozen... Oh, the same dude that operates that... Wow. And a dozen others. The email, which was sent to other executives at the franchise group that operates the Applebee's and later forwarded to the Lawrence store, portrayed high gas prices and inflation as an opportunity for the company to rebuild its workforce and pay lower wages. Right. Most of our employee base and potential employee base live paycheck to paycheck, and any increase in gas prices cuts in... Yes, we read this. The labor market is about to turn into our favor. And here it is again, reposted. When Holcomb read the note, he quit on the spot. Nice. 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 Before he left, however, he printed out 24 stacks of the email. Nice. And showed them to his coworkers, put them all over the store, on the tables, on the bar tops, the host stand, the doors, even the computer terminals. Nice. Nice. I gave everyone in the restaurant their food for free. We didn't even close the store. Nice. Nice. Another round of applause for that. If this is what you think of your employees, then maybe they shouldn't care about your shitty business anyways. In the weeks since the email was sent, a mass exodus has happened at the restaurant. 4 out of 6 managers and at least 10 other workers either quit on the spot or handed in their notices. The tone-deaf message, it's not tone-deaf. It is, but it's on purpose, okay? This isn't like a oopsie daisies. This is a little peek into what they think. A little peek as to how executives view their workers. This isn't like an oopsies. Not at all. It's not tone deaf in the sense that they didn't realize what they were doing and made a message without thinking about it. You know? An example would be the Chris Rock joke. That was tone deaf. That was tone deaf. I highly doubt that Chris Rock looked into whether or not is it Jada Pinkett Smith had a condition or not. He didn't really look into it, I bet. I don't even know if he knows. That's tone deaf. He couldn't really read the room, so to speak, right? Made a callous joke, so on and so forth. This was calculated. This isn't like an appropriate use of tone deaf. This was on purpose. Screenshots of which were later posted to Reddit was a breaking point for some workers. They told Vice News that they've been underpaid, overworked, and mistreated by the company during a time of unprecedented stress in the service industry. Yep. This was the kind of straw that broke the camel's back situation where everyone was feeling underappreciated and we were understaffed. Jesus. Said Adrian Kelly, a 22-year-old bartender and server at the Lawrence Applebee's who quit on Monday. And this email was so atrocious that it kind of just tipped everyone over the edge. Good. And anyone who works at Applebee's should probably read the email. Because it's not just this one guy, not this one executive. He sent it to a lot of franchise executives. This is what they think of you. When Jenna Willis, 23, arrived at the restaurant the morning after Holocom shift, read the email, she also decided to quit. Awesome. Oh my gosh, I was so mad. I let the staff that showed up to open that morning read it, and they were livid, so I told them if they wanted to make money, we would open, but I really didn't feel like we should. Good. The staff agreed, and the store shut down for several hours. How can we continue to work for a company that doesn't care about us? Good question. Both Applebee's and American Franchise Brands, which owns the Lawrence franchise, have distanced themselves from Pankrat's email. Scott Fisher, a spokesperson for AFC Brands and Apple Central LLC, the subsidiary operating the Lawrence at restaurant, told Kansas City Star and the Lawrence Journal World that the email was embarrassing. Nah, it's only embarrassing because it was leaked. Okay? It was only embarrassing because it was leaked. Applebee's chief operating officer Kevin Carroll said in a statement provided to Vice News that Pankrat's email was of the opinion of an individual, not of Applebee's. Hard X to doubt on that one, my friend. Hard X to doubt. Hard X to doubt on that. On Monday, Applebee's corporate office confirmed to Vice News that Pankrat's had been terminated. Our team members are the lifeblood of our restaurants, and our franchises are always looking to reward and incentivize team members, new and current, to remain within the Applebee's. Oh man. Family. Oh man, if that isn't a red flag. If that isn't a red flag. Don't worry. Remain at the Applebee's family where you can be underpaid, underappreciated, working understaffed, and then have your executive who owns that franchise take advantage of the situation to underpay workers. But don't worry, you're family. At Applebee's, you're family, folks. An email and phone call to Pankrat's were unreturned, as did emails to the company's area director and its regional vice president, both of whom were CC'd on the original email. Oh yeah. Oh man. That would be oh man. Exactly. Family helps each other for free. Exactly. How's it going, Maple Leaf Dragon? Like other restaurant chains around the country operating during the pandemic, Applebee's has struggled to hire employees, many of whom left the service industry entirely for more stable and less demanding work. More than 10% of jobs in accommodation and food services were open in January, compared to only 7% of all positions in the US. Last May, Applebee's even hosted a national hiring day to try to bring in 10,000 new employees across the US. The company promised potential candidates a voucher for a free appetizer. What? This is like offering a free pizza party. Not bad, I'm hanging in there. This is the equivalent of of offering a free pizza party and be like, look, listen, we can't offer wage increases. We can't make sure that you have, at least at the bare minimum, a living wage. But we can order you guys a pizza. How about that? Look at that. Free pizza, guys. But the promise of a few free mozzarella sticks didn't make much of a dent in the shortage. Yeah, it turns out people can't live off just mozzarella sticks. That's unbelievable to me. It turns out people can't just live off the promise of a few mozzarella sticks. If Applebee's would have offered good benefits, a living wage, a decent work environment, that would do monumentally better than the promise of a few free mozzarella sticks, okay? Come sign an application, we'll feed you a few mozzarella sticks. Oh yeah, but God forbid, if you're on shift and you take a single fry, you're fired. If you take a single fry that doesn't belong to you, you're fired. Kelly started working as a bartender and server at Applebee's last month. Honestly, with our turnover rate, that's a pretty solid timeline. Jesus, that's another red flag right there. That's another red flag. If you see high turnover rates like this, oh boy, that's oof. That's a huge yikes. Sometimes Kelly D said the bartender's the only person at the restaurant aside from the chefs and manager. Some days that's fine, but it's a college town, it can get kind of busy out of nowhere, and there were some days that we had servers who were very stressed about it. Yikes. Willis would do 4 interviews a day and hire most of the people she spoke with, but that wasn't enough to solve the shortage either. We wouldn't get anybody to actually show up to the store after being hired. Yeah, because if you if you don't pay people, good wages, why would you show up? When Jonah Virginis began working, it was a trial by fire. My first day that I bartended at Applebee's was because I showed up in the morning and the bartender didn't show up, and my manager was like, "Hey, you're on bars today?" Jesus. With no experience making cocktails prior to working at Applebee's. Jesus. The reason for the understaffing was fairly simple. Employees weren't making enough money. Prior to the pandemic, Willis said servers could expect to make 100 and 150 per night. Now, post-COVID, it's like 60. One day, geez, that's like, what, half? Almost? One day, Virginius? Oh, man. That's called he worked a double shift because another bartender didn't show up, and that day I did the best. I made about 250. Yikes. But it was a long day, and for how much? Yep. Managers weren't much better off. Willis worked for a year and a half as a salaried manager, making $40,000 a year. What? Wow. Canada minimum wage is now $15.50. Should be a bit higher, yeah? Well, is that Canada's federal minimum wage, like across the board, or? Give the workers a living wage and they'll have enough money to be customers too. Like, how difficult is a concept that took? Yeah, but yeah, they don't think that far ahead, you know. But she often works 60 hours a week at the restaurant. I took homework with me too. Oh man, that's yikes. In January, she took a full-time job somewhere else and has since reduced her role to an hourly manager working 2 days a week at the restaurant. The employee's prior experience with the higher-ups didn't help matters much either. Willis recalled an interview she had with Pankratz, the guy who actually wrote this email, last year when she was up for a promotion. And that man is something else of himself. He would ask me a question and then wouldn't even give me an opportunity to actually answer before he was already answering it and explained to me as if I didn't understand it from the beginning. Jesus. You could just tell he didn't care about the employees. Damn. Fisher, the spokesperson for AFC Brands, told the Kansas City Star that Pankratz doesn't have the authority to create policy for our company or the brand or anything. Really? That may be so. Then why was the the regional vice president and some other big person up there CC'd then? The other both Willis and Holcomb, however, said that Pankratz had much more power than the company suggested. The other people at the company take what Pankratz says very seriously and kind of blindly support him. Fisher also suggested to the Star that email may have been written in the middle of the night. A copy of the email obtained by Vice News shows that the timestamp says 3:52 local time. Pankratz's email wasn't the first time the company has drawn national scrutiny. After an incident at an Apple Central restaurant in Missouri where two black diners were racially profiled. Yikes. Apple Central shut down that location and 6 others in Missouri and Kansas. Applebee's later sued Apple Central's principal shareholder, William Georgetz, for $11 million, allegedly failure to pay rent and other fees, significant brand and reputational damage as a result of the incident. Applebee's voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit a few months later. Yikes. On March 22, after the Lawrence store had been shut down for hours, 2 area directors from AFC Brands came to the store to do what multiple employees described as damage control with the workers who were left. They should have all just left, to be honest. We talked to them for hours and they made promises about how things are going to change. Things have not changed yet, so I have not gone back. I don't actually expect them to make any changes. It hasn't worked. 3 people quit on Monday alone. A worker walked out in the middle of a shift, and Kelly and another employee put in their notices in solidarity. Nice. I believe that management is waiting for the issue to fade away rather than take the opportunity to fix all the problems it's facing, so I don't see a reason to stick around. Yeah, good. And make sure that it's continuously talked about in your area. That would be a good idea, I would say. Because if nothing's going to change, then make sure that anybody who is thinking about working there has an idea of how their executives think of them. One silver lining of the fallout for restaurant workers has been sticking together in their response to the email. The employees and managers have been pretty tight on the issue. We are all kind of united about it. There's a lot of support for each other, and that's been really good. Nice. I wonder if that could transform into some type of unionization effort. The public backlash has been swift and widespread too. Willis shared the email in the local Lawrence Facebook group, while Holoconcern posted screenshots on the subreddit r/antiwork. The post has received more than 75,000 upvotes and 5,200 comments as of Tuesday. And just like that, I never ate at Applebee's again. Nice. And their food isn't that good either. Isn't that great. Holcomb said that he hopes people in similar situations take notes of the response and support Applebee workers who quit, have received from people in... Holcomb said he hopes people in similar situations take note of the response and support Applebee's workers who quit have received from people in Lawrence and across the country. True. Holcomb said that he was even offered a job after he did a radio interview about the email. Nice. Nice. I really hope that more and more people see what's happening and see the support that the community has given everybody that chose to leave. Nice. I hope that people realize that they don't have to be walked all over by the company that they work for. Yeah, exactly. That's the TLDR of that, right? People have to realize that they don't have to be walked all over by the company that they work for. After all, you are the worker. That's the perfect TLDR of this article. Once again, if you want to see the complete email or complete leaked email, consider going to the More Perfect Union. At this point, anyone who works for a company controlled by a publicly traded corporation absolutely needs to be in a union. I agree. Did you see how P&O Ferries have sacked 800 employees in the UK and replaced them with cheaper workers? Capitalism. The future face of the Republican Party has made an absolutely delusional claim, which to this, as far as we know, has been wildly unsubstantiated. And, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm some type of mental health professional, but maybe if you're receiving texts from people and they don't, it seems to exist in his mind alone, because there's no evidence whatsoever, nor did he want to name names, which is really weird. It seems like he's receiving texts from people that don't exist. You know what? Let's hear it from the guy himself, right? Madison Cawthorn. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy met with first-term Representative Madison Cawthorn on Wednesday about his claims of colleagues using drugs and inviting him to a, quote, sexual get-together. McCarthy told Cawthorn that I lost my trust in him because of the salacious claims that there could be, quote, consequences as a result. He didn't specify what those consequences could be. Probably nothing. This is the future of the Republican Party, remember? Consequences for actions? What? That would involve taking personal responsibility. A source with knowledge of the meeting told NBC News that Cawthorn failed to provide any evidence of the sex and drugs allegations that have outraged his colleagues, and that McCarthy warned him he would have to earn his trust back. Yeah, the consequences are a stern talking to. The GOP, folks. Cawthorn made the allegations during an interview last week on the podcast Warrior Poet Society. Weird. After he was asked whether his experience in Washington, D.C. was like the scandalous Netflix show House of Cards. What kind of question is that? House of Cards is like an exaggerated drama, right? Isn't it? Worship of quarterly profits and limitless growth has reached cultist levels, true. Cawthorn then dove into a monologue about the, quote, sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, and said some of his older colleagues had invited him to orgies. I mean, and this is again his quote. I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington where the average age is probably 60 to 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, then all of a sudden you get, quote, invited. Cawthorn said, quoting one such alleged exchange. Oh, what? This just seems unbelievably wild. Quote, oh hey, we're gonna have, oh man, this is gonna fuel a lot of QAnon stuff. I can see it. Quote, we're gonna have some kind of sexual get-together in one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, quote, did you just ask me, what did you just ask me to come to? And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Who? Who are these people? Who are these texts coming from? And this must be just, who are these people? Because either he's receiving texts from people that don't exist, in which case, you should probably speak to someone if you're hearing things. If you're having exchanges with people that don't exist, and you're retelling them as if they were real, or because like also another point I think Maple Leaf Dragon is alluding to this is let's just indulge that for a second. If they were Democratic lawmakers, do you think that guy is going to stay silent on that? If he had that juicy text messages or exchange or phone call, if he had that ready to go and it was Democratic lawmakers, why sit on that? Why sit on that? Just drop all the names. Never meet your heroes and pick better ones, true. I kind of agree with the opinion I watched on Ring of Fire about this story. GOP, instead of ignoring Cawthorn's statement and discounting it as fantasy, they're starting to run damage control, suggesting it could be real. Yeah, but who? They never made like the even the allusion to who it might be. He continued. He then continued to talk about the fact that there's some people leading on the movement to try and remove addiction from our country, and then you watch them do a key bump of cocaine right in front of you, and they're like, "This is wild." Who? The comments upset many of Cawthorn's House Republican colleagues who expressed their frustration to McCarthy in a meeting on Tuesday. McCarthy told Axios that Cawthorn acknowledged his claims were exaggerated. In my interview, he claims he watched people do cocaine, and then when he comes and tells me, he said he maybe saw probably a staffer 100 yards away. Yeah, no, like this is this is nonsense. This is nonsense. Cawthorn declined to comment after the meeting, saying, "We're not going to do interviews today." His office didn't immediately respond for requests for comment. Cawthorn was rebuked publicly by McCarthy earlier this month after he called Ukrainian President Zelensky a thug, of course, who is incredibly corrupt, evil, and has been pushing, quote, woke ideology. Of course, this is just another lie because, first of all, what woke ideology is President Zelensky? Is he like a master of like Ukrainian politics? Did this guy like overnight absorb like the entirety of Ukrainian politics? No, he's just lying. This is just totally just trying to lean into the sexual cabal fantasy conservatives have about the quote elites. Yeah, this is like Q posting. This is Q posting basically. I think he honestly is just making this up. I literally think he's just making this up. If it's true, name names. The story is still young. Yeah, that's true. But I have a feeling we're not going to hear much about this story. I've got a feeling we're not going to hear much about this story. Because it's just not true. Madison is wrong, McCarthy said then, in regards to the comments of Zelensky. Asked if he would still support his re-election bid, McCarthy said yes. Yeah, like there's no consequences. There's no consequences. This is the future of the GOP. This is who they want as the face of the new young GOP. Right there. This guy. I'm wondering why he would be shocked that much about politicians doing drugs if it is true. Did this guy seriously think they all pledged to DARE or something? True. True. Alright, let's see if we actually have like actual audio video about this. Is this it?
When you've got a health concern, there's searching the internet and there's science. There's surprise bills and there's knowing what you're gonna pay. There's a lab test on your own schedule from home. There's physician-reviewed.
Let me just mute that.
Congressional Republicans are so mad at Congressman Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina, not for the reasons that you watching the show might be, and accused by multiple women of sexual harassment. Inexcusable behavior from congressional trolls like Cawthorn and Lauren Boebert, Taylor Greene of Georgia, yada, yada, yada. No, Cawthorn is in trouble for these comments he recently made on a right-wing podcast.
Okay, there we go. I want
Look
to
at all
hear
these
him.
people. A lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys. That then all of a sudden you get invited to like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove addiction in our country, and then you watch them do a key bump of cocaine right in front of you.
There's so much you could say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so either this is completely fictional and he's talking to people that don't exist. He's getting invitations to sexual parties or get-togethers that never happened, in which case I would have to wonder, bro, are you okay? Or like imaginary people just coming up to you like this? Are you just imagining this thing? In which case, I would probably, if so, again, not, I'm not some kind of psychologist, but if you're, getting invitations from people that aren't real, I would probably suggest you speak to somebody. Or you're lying. Or you're lying to get sensationalist headlines. Or, if you want to get into a more deeper rabbit hole, you're protecting your colleagues because you best believe if it was Democratic lawmakers, that would be all over the place. That would be plastered wall to wall. It sounded like an invitation to a lobbyist party, actually. Yeah, maybe what he thought as a, quote, sexual get-together was just a lobby party, like a lobbying meeting. That would be more realistic, okay? That would be more realistic. Hey, Alio, how's it going? Interesting that he couldn't even name names, because then he might be on the hook for what is it, slander? Or slander, right? Slander is the verbal one, right? Interesting how he can't name names, because that would mean he might be on the hook for slander. Could it be a dead cat to mask something else? No, I think it's just like stuff that he's cooking up to make headlines, maybe. These exchanges probably only exist in his head. They're fabrications of his mind. He isn't exactly known for being truthful anyways. Loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Yep. Yep, that's why I said there consequences. What? There's no consequences. Why would there be consequences to the face of the young GOP, the next generation? Perhaps he's trying to recruit some more right-wingers. Maybe, as somebody mentioned earlier, it's just to lean into that kind of QAnon cabal, sexual cabal thing, that they have going on. President Joe Manchin shoots down Biden's new billionaire tax plan. Interesting. Conservative Senator Joe Manchin on Tuesday shot down Biden's new plan to raise $360 billion in revenue by imposing a 20% minimum tax on billionaires. Bro, why? A proposal the president formally unveiled on Monday in his budget request to Congress. Manchin said he doesn't support the president's plan to tax the unrealized gains of billionaires, who would set a new precedent by taxing the value and asset accrues in theory before it actually sold and converted into cash. What? Hey Dustin, how's it going? Do I want to be taxed more? Nah. You can't tax something that's not earned. Earned income is what we're based on. There's other ways to do it. Everybody has to pay their fair share. Okay, so if you think that this isn't a way to, quote, make people pay their, quote, fair share, then what is your proposal? This is why this is such an asinine, label to attempt to put this guy as some type of centrist. And as this article states and points out, President Joe Manchin, the problem is that many of these oligarchs, such as Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, have been able to pay little to nothing in income tax by not declaring income tax. That's the name of the game. Either President Joe Manchin is woefully unaware of how this works, which is very strange considering that he's been there for decades, or is simply more interested in protecting the oligarchs than he is of at least attempting to tax them more. Cawthorn is still one of those who thinks he can stay clean of all the corruption. That's just a life lesson for him. Yeah, I don't know if that's whew. Unrealized gains on things like property, art, and items that are difficult to debate value on and would get stuck in tax court put a front tax on all trusts, stock purchases, another form of assets instead of a back-end tax. Want to hide millions in a trust fund? Okay, so pay up front, buddy. Yeah, I mean, at least propose something like that instead of saying oh, this is just unrealistic. This is just impossible. Then just do that. Instead, oligarchs often can take out loans secured by values of their assets to finance their lavish lifestyles. Quote, here's what they do. They go to their accountant, they tell their accountant, make sure I don't make any income, any salary. And then they say, make sure I can buy, borrow, and die. Nobody knew anything about that years ago, and now people are pretty up on it. Wyden said that imposing a minimum 20% tax on billionaires is about making sure they pay a similar percentage of their wealth in taxes as middle-class Americans. Sure. Just make sure that you do it whatever way. I mean, like, how could you possibly not, at least attempt to do this? Structuring a tax on unrealized capital gains is complicated because the value of assets can fluctuate. Okay, so do what Cheeseburger Freedom Eagle said. Make it a front-end tax. We've always had a principle in our tax policy that a gain has to actually be realized. Income has to be received before it can be taxed, and this completely undermines that principle. Yeah, but these folks don't declare any of this. So how do you tax them? You can't just throw your hands in the air and be like, well, it's just not, we just can't do it. That's not an acceptable answer. Front-end tax coupled with closing the tax loopholes that have made it possible for so long for billionaires to not pay taxes. True. Explain property taxes then. That's a good point. You don't. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Morning. Howdy. Tax and financial planning experts warned that Biden's proposal would be very difficult to implement and would result in a huge tax hit on the very rich. Oh no. Guys, have you considered how this would result in a huge tax hit on the very rich? Malin Fitzpatrick, a managing director at Robertson Stevens, a boutique wealth management firm, said the proposal would, quote, make it tougher to pass on legacy wealth. Oh no, the horror. Guys, have you just considered for a second the ability for these oligarchs to pass on their wealth and continue to perpetuate the very problem? Have you considered their feelings, chat? I watched an ad for a Halo TV series before getting into the stream. They know their audience. Oh yeah. I need to watch it. I need to watch it. I am 100% on board. I watched enough previews to be very excited. I understand that it is not canon, and a lot of people are like pretty mad that like it didn't follow the actual, storyline. But like, dude, relax, okay? This is the first time we get a live action Halo series after being so disappointed back in 2000 something. Was it 2008? No. When did Big Mad? Yeah. When did District 9 come out? Oh, such a good movie. When did District 9 come out? ...2009. Okay, so I was close. 2009. So disappointed. A billion years ago. Yeah, 2009. Nice. Hit the mark. For only 10 cents a day, you can sponsor Billionaire not paying taxes. Will you think of the poor oligarchs who now have to scramble? Have you thought about their feelings? Have you thought about how hard it is? Chad, I think you're being very uncharitable to these oligarchs. Have you considered for a split second how difficult it must be being them? Being an oligarch attempting to manage how you're going to hide your billions for your next of kin. Have you considered the difficulties it is to pay people to do the work for you, to constantly circumvent taxes? Unbelievable, chat. Anyways, back to the real important topics here. So District 9 was supposed to be... District 9 was what came out of the failed original attempt at the Halo live-action movie. There was supposed to be a live-action Halo movie that was going to be directed by Peter Jackson. They had all the things heading in the right direction, but then the plug got pulled, and a lot of that got repurposed and made into District 9. I don't know if you guys saw. An example would be if you've guys seen the movie District 9, you saw how some of those military vehicles looked awfully like warthogs from Halo. Yeah, that's because they're repurposed. So yes, I'm very excited that they finally came through for a Halo live-action series. And despite the fact that it's not going to be canon, I'm still going to watch it. Yeah, if things keep going as they are, the policy won't be tax the rich, it'll be eat the rich, right? Because, like, I mean, it's unsustainable. This is not a sustainable way. Just like, even if from just a pure economics angle, this is not sustainable. This is not good. Quote, a lot of this proposal is aiming at people who are just slowly growing assets and not paying any tax because they're not realizing any gains and are expected to pass on, and are expecting to pass on their wealth to the heirs or whomever without paying taxes on it. He said, the quote, mega wealthy, the oligarchs rely on that. Well, you know what? F these people. All right? F these people. They should be absolutely taxed into the ground. I think that's why it's unpopular. But it's hard to enforce. You're asking for the first time that I know of your people to report net worth. They're going to self-report or have a professional report how wealthy they are. It is just very complex as I read it. It's not fully fleshed out. I don't know. We should all do a watch party. That would be cool. In all seriousness, the day they get their real tax statement and they are like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this, I will be spamming on every social media channel, giving up avocado toast and just work harder, sweaty. Just work harder, sweaty. Oh, and my favorite. My ultimate favorite. Bro, have you considered pulling yourself up by the bootstraps? Why don't you get a real job, okay? You see, when I was struggling, I had to pick myself up, okay? And work whatever job came to me. So you can too. Bootstraps, find them. Find them and pull them. That'll be the day, true. I hate that phrase. It's anatomic. Yeah, it's impossible. That's the whole meme. That's the whole meme behind it. Yeah, just get a second job. Oh, you picked the wrong degree? Just save up. Damn, you're in like hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt. That's your responsibility. So you know what? Nobody told you to be an exploitative oligarch. So that's you, man. Take some personal responsibility and figure it out. No one told you to be an exploitative oligarch. Anyways, nice meme. Thank you. Conservative President Joe Manchin. Thank you. Right. Silly me. Responsibility is for the poors. True. Alright. Media literacy test, folks. Alright, because this kind of stuff is very popular because it's a sensational headline. It will be a great day to watch billionaires have a meltdown. True. True, I would pay front row for that one. Alright, so first and foremost, it's in big letters. This is an opinion piece. Okay? This is just so... Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so here's... I failed media literacy. I failed media literacy right off the bat. Folks, whenever you see garbage articles like this, be sure to check who wrote them, who wrote these opinion pieces. Okay? Be sure to check who wrote these opinion pieces. That's like number one, okay? So, I didn't realize that this was done by Bjorn Lomborg, who is a climate change denial. His entire job, his entire shtick, is to make sure that the climate crisis is downplayed to as much as possible. and is for some reason heralded as some type of expert on this. I would also like to point out that Bjorn Lomborg is often retweeted by a professional and delusional clown, Jordan Peterson, who often goes on climate change denial Twitter tirades. We can survive a nuclear war. Not so sure about climate change, though. I'm not so sure. Also, false dichotomy. People can have multiple concerns. For example, I'm actually just a bundle of anxiety and pants. Yeah, but his job isn't to. His job is to downplay the climate crisis, and his job is to get you to not pay too much attention. Right? That's his job. All right, Mr. Lomborg, let's see what garbage you have for us today. Weeks before the thermobaric rockets rained down on Ukraine, the chattering classes at the World Economic Forum declared climate action failure the biggest global risk for the coming decade. True. On the eve of war, the U.S. climate envoy, John Kerry, fretted about the massive emission consequences of Russian invasion and worried about the world might forget about the risk of climate change if fighting broke out. True. Amid the conflict and many other challenges facing the globe right now, like inflation and food price hikes, the global elite That's right. It's not going to be pretty, but I'm pretty sure we would survive as a species, I think. Amid the conflict, like many other challenges facing the globe right now, like inflation and food price hikes. Yeah, hey, buddy. Can somebody tell me in chat, what exactly is necessary to grow food? Just really quickly. What could possibly be necessary to grow food? Okay? Topsoil, yes. Clean water, sun, water, soil. Seasons, yeah, definitely not a healthy environment. A sustainable environment. One that isn't getting completely destroyed by droughts, where we've had numerous problems growing food because of climate change. No. Like inflation, food price hikes, the global elite has an unhealthy obsession with climate change. This fixation has three important consequences. First, it has distracted the Western world, holy yikes, from the real geopolitical threats. Okay. As if what he considers the Western world hasn't been almost borderline unanimous in their position on the whole idea. The entire world has been talking about this. Russia's invasion should be a wake-up call that war is still a serious danger that requires democratic nations' attention. Okay, and what do you want us to do? But a month into the war in Ukraine, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, whose organization's main purpose is ensuring world peace, was focused instead on the climate catastrophe because that's a global event. United Nations global event. Okay. Focus instead on the climate catastrophe, warning that fossil fuel addiction will bring mutually assured destruction. True. Oh, you silly people. You silly Dems, always moralizing and politicizing the climate. Sheesh. Yeah, not obsessed enough about the climate change, if you ask me, true. His comments come at a time when nuclear weapons are posing the biggest risk of literal mutual assured destruction in half a century. I think that there was a point. There was a point where that might have been true. There was a point where that might have been true, but I have a feeling that this is no longer the case. Okay, at least it's not as big of a threat as it was. I would argue that a couple of weeks ago, well, about weeks ago, maybe, considering that Russia was exercising their nuclear forces and all that, maybe. Especially with the comment saying that Russia has no problems using nuclear strikes if it's to preserve its, as a last resort to preserve itself. But nonetheless, unless there's a existential threat to Russia, they will not use nuclear weapons according to them. But nonetheless, my point being is that maybe there was a moment there, for a moment there, the world kind of held its breath. But I don't think that that's necessarily the case as much anymore. That is yet to be remain to be seen. How's it going, Ark, by the way? Yeah, typical of coastal elites, true. Second, the narrow focus on immediate climate objectives undermine the future prosperity. The world currently shells out more than $500 billion annually in private and public funds on climate policies, while spending from the governments of countries in the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development on innovation that underpins growth in areas such as healthcare, space, defense, agriculture, and science has been declining as a percentage of gross domestic product over decades. And my friend, my buddy, my homie, my bruv, what do you think would be necessary to invest in to solve the climate crisis? Could it be perhaps an increase on public funds on climate science, on climate policies, which would require things such as agriculture and science? It would require development and innovation. Education, performance, and although this is a red herring, none of this has anything to do. This is a red herring. None of this has to do with climate policy. Education performance in developed nations is stagnant or declining, and real income growth among OECD countries have almost stalled this century. By contrast, in China, where innovation-related spending is up 50% from where it was in 2000, and education is rapidly improving, average incomes have increased fivefold since the start of the 21st century. Okay. Third, in the world's poorest countries, international communities focus on putting up solar panel coexist in a woefully underinvestment in solutions to massive existing problems. Infectious diseases like tuberculosis and malaria kill millions. Malnutrition affects almost 1 billion people. And what could possibly be a product we literally went over this yesterday. What could possibly be a domino effect of climate change? Could it be possibly malnutrition because we're not able to grow the food? We're not able to grow as much food, as much varieties in the same ways. Maybe climate change has exacerbated pandemics or diseases, I should say, infectious diseases. These are all just like distraction points. Remember, that's his game. More than 3 billion lack access to reliable energy. These and other issues plaguing the developing world are solvable but get far less funding from wealthy countries and climate change, giving the developing world affordable access to consistently available energy, which often requires fossil fuels because that's, The endgame, the perpetuation of fossil fuels, is key to lifting most of the world out of poverty. Yet before the invasion of Ukraine, the developing world was racing to make fossil fuel energy more expensive and less accessible for the world's poorest. Okay. What underpins this climate fixation? The false and irresponsible idea that global warming poses an immediate existential risk for the world. Yep, and there it is. Climate change is real and man-made. Have no doubt about that. You know, I'm a science man myself. But the best economic estimates used by the Obama and Biden administrations, as well as those created by the only climate economist to ever win the Nobel Prize in Economics. Wait, who? All show that the total impact of unmitigated climate change, not just on the economy but overall, would be an equivalent to less than 4% hit to global GDP annually by the end of the century. Because the hit to the GDP is the only impact of unmitigated climate change. This guy's an absolute clown. This guy's an absolute clown. The UN estimates that the average person in 2100 will be 450% as rich as today. If climate change continues unabated, the average person will be only 434% as rich, far from a catastrophic outcome. A world-scared witless doesn't make smart decisions, so it should not be surprised. So it should be no surprise it has managed to make a dent in climate change. Globally, last year we saw the most CO2 emissions ever, despite $5 trillion spent over the past decade on climate policies. The UN admitted in 2019 that there has been no real change in the global emissions pathway in the last decade, despite the Global Paris Agreement. Right, that's not because climate change isn't that big of a deal. That's not because climate change has not has like disappeared or is not as big of a deal. That's policy failure. The EU has tried to shift to renewables, but still gets more than 70% of energy from fossil fuels. Yeah, and because of this conflict, they have been redoubling their efforts to go as much renewable as possible. Much of the rest is generated by burning wood chips from trees chopped down in America and transported on diesel ships. Yeah, and that could change by going as renewable as possible. Solar and wind produce only 3% of the used energy, and technology is unreliable, not true, often requiring backup from gas when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow. This is a good meme. Europe's refusal to embrace shale gas, which shale is one of the worst and most polluting ways of obtaining fuel. Which can be found throughout the continent but remains untapped, has left it at the mercy of Russian gas. The past 2 months show how dangerous that is. Well-meaning politicians across the world have been proposing policies to reach net zero in the coming decades, according to McKinsey, the McKinsey Institute. The policies will cost $9.2 trillion every year until net zero is, oh, look, $9.2 trillion every year. Hey, that's how much we spend on the, that's how much we spend as one country in the US in 10 years. Interesting. So across the world, if the entirety of the world comes together, you're telling me it would only cost $9 trillion? I asked the question then, what is the cost of not addressing the issue? We could have all the pipelines and endless energy. Thanks, Obama. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos shot another bunch of rich folk in the Blue Origin across the Kármán line today to reduce climate change? Yeah, no. This is equivalent to half the global tax take. Such extremely costly policies are unlikely to be enacted by emerging economies such as India or Africa, whose emissions will also skyrocket as their populations and economies grow. Net zero is also likely to fail in the developed world, where its high cost will erode prosperity and thus political support. No, it's failing because of capitalism. Achieving net zero would cost every American family $19,300 a year, according to the McKinsey study. Yeah, press X to doubt on that one. Yeah, I want to know, Mr. Lomberg, have you considered the cost, or what? Do you know the numbers of what the cost of flooding of Florida off map and everybody in the Colorado River basin moving north? What about the billions of dollars that hurricane damage will cause? What about the billions that the wildfires have caused just in one season alone, which is becoming more and more prominent? Can you quantify me real quick how much billions were lost when an unusual hurricane just devastated the Central America? Quantify me the loss of all the crops that weren't able to make it in Central and South America. And then take into consideration the negative externalities that would come from that. What are the increased healthcare costs from malnutrition? To respond to climate change effectively, the world needs to spend more on green energy innovation and develop renewables that are reliable and cost effective. Oh, good thing we did. We have wind, solar, geothermal, hydroelectric in some cases, depending on how that's deployed. Good thing we already have those. To address their immediate energy problems, Europe and America need to embrace fracking. Despite Russian-funded propaganda discrediting it, no, my friend. Russian propaganda isn't discrediting fracking. My God, these ads are insufferable. So his source is from a rando I can't see this guy's name. Jesus Christ. Matt Ridley. Okay. Earthquakes are supposed to happen in Oklahoma if it's convenient. True. Matt Ridley. Hmm. Okay. So we found out who this guy is. Matt Ridley was a House of Lords member. And his views on fracking is that he is a proponent of fracking. He has been found to have breached a parliamentary code of conduct by the House of Lords Commissioner of Standards for not orally disclosing in debates on the subject personal interests worth at least £50,000 in the Wire Group, which has been described as the world's largest provider of special equipment used in the process of fracking. He is also a businessman. Is connected to the coal industry. He's also the owner of the land northeast of England on which the Shotton surface coal mine operates and received payments for the mine. Yeah, this is why you check your sources, folks. No, there's no Russian propaganda discrediting fracking. It's an incredibly destructive way of producing energy, a way of producing and perpetuating fossil fuels, and help the rest of the world access to oil and gas it needs. There are many serious threats in the world today, but most won't get attention they deserve until the political class drop their hyperbole about climate change and treat it like what they actually is, one of the many problems to be solved, only one of the many problems to be solved in the 21st century. This guy is a climate change denial propagandist. His job is to make sure that you don't pay attention to the realities of climate change, and his job is to make sure that you actually have to be comfortable with fossil fuels, and that at the end of the day, yeah, it's not such a big deal, folks. I'm almost tempted to look at the comments. Oh no, I can't. Alright, folks. Let's get ourselves ready. Let's get this garbage out of the way. Never look at the comments. I was curious. I was curious.
Hey, this is Cory Booker.
And Mark Kelly.
We have real challenges, and democracy is in the balance, and that's why...
Okay, buddy. Alright, folks, we've got this video, which I thought was interesting. I don't know what to expect, but I'm curious. I'm not saying I wasn't curious, but never look at the comments. True. All right, folks. We've got to do a quick show session really quickly, folks. This month's sponsor is HelloFresh. Make sure you use !HelloFresh and use code POGSE2534 to get up to 16 free meals, plus 3 surprise gifts across your 6 HelloFresh boxes, plus free shipping on your first box. Make sure you click the link there. It does help out the channel. Plus, we've used HelloFresh before. Pretty positive experience. And if you don't want to continue, or just want to have it just for a little bit, the cool part about it is you can keep the recipes, folks. There are veggie options available as well, delivered straight to your door. All right, you don't got to do anything. Make sure that you click, sell out. Welcome to capitalism, fam. True. True. Capitalism is when people show for sponsors. Anyways, use !HelloFresh, and you get to support the channel. Look at that, 2 for the price of 1. I do the most. I think I would argue that having your own means of production, where the worker makes or owns their means of production. In other words, I own the means, my computer, my microphone, the camera. I own the channel. I don't have anyone under me. I own my fruits of my own labor. Sounds to me that's a little bit more socialistic rather than capitalistic. Capitalistic means I am the sole proprietor of the means of production, but I exploit labor under me without letting them own the part of the means of production.
If the Republican Party is blind to this because they take donations,
my favorite part of.
But your advertisements don't? Maybe not. I don't know. But I don't exploit any labor because I don't have any labor to exploit. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's an ad. It's right there. It's #sponsored. Are you trying to make some sad attempt at hypocrisy?
Your argument, Namiki?
The wonderful Nomiki Konst was on Fox News, where she was interrupted twice while discussing the power of corporations. So there's a lot more to this clip. I'm going to correct some of the misinformation coming from the other guest after this clip. But first here, look, I watched the entire segment. It's about 4 minutes long. The only time Harris Faulkner, Fox News host here, the only time she interrupted is while Nomiki...
One-man union, true.
He was talking about the power of corporations over politics. Check this out.
Biden's approval on the economy also at an all-time low, with just 33% of people approving of its handling by Biden. 38% blame the president for rising inflation, which hit 7.9% in February. I'll come in reverse order. Matt.
No, again, that's a huge, huge issue. And as you mentioned before, his numbers among Latinos and African Americans is also troublesome. Look, Republicans have been making really quiet gains, steady gains, though, over the last couple of years. Democrats have taken them for granted. They assume that all they care about is either immigration or free stuff, when all they really care about is all what the rest of us care about, which is the economy.
What? Free stuff?
Making sure their streets are safer and their houses are safer and their kids get a quality education. It's not rocket scientists, and it's certainly not pandering.
It's not rocket scientists.
Nomiki.
Well, I got to hand it to you, Matt. Your jujitsu, your communications jujitsu is amazing. The fact that you mentioned 2014 is the last time Republicans did better, again, that was a midterm year. This is historic. That is how it works. Everybody knows that, but you do a great job at that. Also, I mean, let's see. I would like to know how much we're losing support among minorities. It's actually quite small, and you are gaining a very, very, very tiny, almost not even relevant number of minority support. You know, let's go back to your numbers, which is important because the economy is in this situation because the corporations, the multinational corporations, which fund the lobbyists,
you do
which fund
realize
your
that the
Congress
price of
members,
gas was up by like $1.92 before we got into a situation where we told Russia we wouldn't buy any more oil and the numbers started to really burst.
I'm not blaming Putin.
Okay, but what about the cost of bread?
What I will
that
blame,
doesn't have anything to do with the oil companies or the big corporations.
It has to do with CEOs price gouging. They're price gouging everywhere to an effect that Congress is now going to investigate it. If the Republican Party is blind to this because
we talked about reparations.
My favorite part of your argument, Namiki, was arguing how many blacks, Latinos, independents, and women don't like you. It's like that was
what?
It's great to have you both.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. You heard free stuff from the Fox News propagandist. What free stuff are you talking about? Now 81 million want him out. Can you give me a source on that number, or are you just making shit up?
Well, I hope everybody will join me. Take on BigTech.com.
By joining my platform, Big Tech. Yeah, also true story. True story. The Democratic Party does set the price of gas. This is very well known. Very well known. Joe's polls? Interesting. Can you point to a source? Or again, are you just espousing numbers that popped into your head? Grifter's gonna grift. True. Dead Pirate Mexico. Thank you, by the way, so much for the offline follow. I appreciate that.
Faulkner only interrupted twice. Once when Nomiki was talking about how gas companies are gouging people, which they are.
Which is true. 100% true.
Show you that, the proof of that in a second here. But also, when she was talking about the power of corporate donations. And then, you know, both times Harris Faulkner tries to redirect the conversation to something else.
You just showed a Fox poll. Poll numbers do not equal the exact number of people who want him out. Are you okay? How do you know? You made the claim that 81 million want him out. How do you back up that number? How do you back up that number? No, you're making the claim. You have to show proof of your claim. You made a claim of an exact number of 81 million. Where is that proof? I mean, I understand if you're incapable of following, that's okay. So I'll teach you. I'll walk you through it, okay? If I say, don't worry, I'll walk you through it. I know this is hard for you. If I say X, right? It would behoove me, it would be on me to show why X is true. You said X. You need to show me where you got that number.
It's truly incredible just to see right in your face Fox News there defending fossil fuel companies price gouging you.
True.
So first, before I do anything else, credit here to Case Study QB for clipping this this bit out. but this on oil versus regular unleaded gasoline. So this is the cost of, so this came from the White House, which, by the way, I did a video on this criticizing Biden for not doing enough. He could be threatening to nationalize this industry, which he is not doing. So you can watch that video for a bigger breakdown on this graph specifically. But just looking here, I mean, you can see as the cost of the price of oil went down, the cost of gas basically stayed the same.
Right, which
this is how these companies gouge consumers. So,
and you could tell that it's like, it's specifically during this era too, right? You could tell based on the graph that specifically it's this era right here. It's this time, right when the invasion started. They just try to profiteer off the war, off the war that's happening. Because look, throughout this entire year, throughout these entire years, right, or months, I should say, it has been correlated exactly, right? It goes up, so does the gas price, right there, boom, and then all of a sudden, oil takes the price per crude, I think, gets all the way down, dipping just at the $100 level, but the gas price didn't move with it. It's almost like it's all fabricated. That's kind of a weird, gross joke. 81 million votes now, 81 million want him out. Okay, so polls equal votes? Do you understand my statement was in sarcastic jest? Oh, so you actually have nothing to contribute to the conversation. You're just espousing nonsense. Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
It's always on the come down. So they'll increase prices with the cost of oil. And then when it's tapering off, they keep prices relatively the same, slowly tapering off eventually, but relatively the same, so they can price gouge you as long as possible without you even realizing it. Meanwhile, they're blaming the market or blaming, something else, but the evidence is right here. So to have Fox News just straight up defending gas companies.
Your winning personality? Okay, and pronouns, what does that have to do with anything? That's kind of a weird statement. Yeah, I know evidence is tough, man. Evidence is tough for you people.
It shows you where their interests are. And to be fair, it's not just Fox News. Cable news generally are going to defend corporations. But here, it was just so blatant. Now, on the issue of the polling, so they brought the poll up there about...
oh, I know who this is.
There's a 63%...
Trust me. I always remember the usernames and trauma. Trust me, I've seen this guy before.
And disapproval of Biden's handling of the economy, which, yeah, I'm sure there is. But they're assuming that that's because people think Biden isn't being conservative enough.
You're hurting my feelings? Oh no. I thought we were the snowflakes.
When the reality is, I would be in that 63% if I was polled, but it's because Biden is being far too conservative with his domestic policy. So, for example, he didn't fight Manchin or Sinema hard enough to pass Build Back Better, which would have given universal pre-K, free community college, child tax credits, lower the cost of medicine, and actual investment into renewable energy. But even...
All right, so yeah. Anyways, that was an interesting exchange. Man, Fox News doesn't really do well with, dissenting opinions. Holy yikes. Jesus. Watching Dems fail. Can you give an example? Because there are legitimate reasons why you could make that claim. Fox equals CNN? What? Now you're just making random claims. Fox equals CNN? These are just random posts. Anyways. Folks, if you haven't already checked this out, please go ahead and look at this link here. We are on page 56 for the IPCC report. We've got plenty to go through here, so it's that time of the session. You'll be forgotten as we all are. Okay. Many cities and settlements have developed adaptation plans since AR5, but a limited number of these have been implemented so that urban adaptation gaps exist in all world regions and for all hazard types. High confidence. Many plans focus on climate risk reduction, missing opportunities to advance co-benefits of climate mitigation and sustainable development, and risking compounding inequality and reduced well-being. Medium confidence. Greatest adaptation gaps exist in projects that manage complex risks, for example, the food, energy, water, health nexus, or the interrelationships of air quality and climate risk. High confidence. Most innovation in adaptation has occurred through advances in social and ecological infrastructure, including disaster risk management, social safety nets, green-blue infrastructure. Medium confidence. However, most financial investment continues to be directed narrowly at large-scale hard engineering projects after climate events have caused them. Medium confidence. Women's sports? Are you okay? Like what? Wait, chat. Did I talk about women's sports? Man, I must be living in an alternate dimension. Approve ratings don't matter in terms of anything until the last 6 months of term. Sure, you can make a weird argument that it impacts midterm elections through coattailing, but that's a diminishing effect. In the age of hyperpartisanship, some presidents have high ratings, some have low. It's largely down to random chance. True. No, we've got better. We've got climate change on the table. Is this a closed discussion? What are you talking about? Can you stay focused? Because you're acting very, very suspect, my friend. Not in this channel. Not in this channel. This is my channel. Given the billions that are billionaire class trips from us, their sports stadiums, I have zero interest in any sports. Nope. Even if it's a perfectly acceptable comment, this is my channel, and I can run it however I want. Because remember, I own the means of this production. So if I say no one can say the word blue, if I say no one can say the word blue, then that's kind of like my choice, right? All right, that's it. Somebody banned Gator Bays. He said blue. Channels aren't limited by TOS. Yeah, I know. Not really, because I can just stream on YouTube. Just saying. So, last chance Do you have anything else to contribute to the conversation, or are you just like randomly posting random comments? I don't know. I think he's just trying to suck up the energy. His name is Vampire. Anyways, important stuff being discussed right now. Systemic barriers constrain the implementation of adaptation options in vulnerable sectors, regions, and social groups. High confidence. Key barriers are limited resources, lack of private sector and citizen engagement, insufficient mobilization of finances, including for research, lack of political leadership, limited research, and/or slow uptake and low uptake of adaptation science, and low sense of urgency. Right, which again, people like Bjorn Lomberg actually want this. They want to make sure that there's lack of political leadership, limited research, and this low sense of urgency, as if this is like not a big deal, right? Dude, my viewership could literally be 0. Most of the adaptation options to key risks depend on limited water and land resources. High confidence. Governance capacity, financial support, and legacy of past urban infrastructure investment constrain how cities and settlements are able to adapt. High confidence. Critical urban capacity gaps include limited ability to identify social vulnerability and community strengths, the absence of integrated planning to protect communities, and the lack of access to innovative funding arrangements and limited capability to manage finance and commercial insurance. Medium confidence. Prioritization of options and transitions from incremental to transformational adaptation are limited due to vested interests, economic lock-ins, and institutional path dependencies, and prevalent practices, cultures, norms, and belief systems. For example, Africa faces severe climate data constraints, inequity in research funding, and leadership that reduces adaptive capacity. Very high confidence. From 1990 to 2019, research on Africa received just 3.8% of climate-related research funding globally, and 78% of this funding of Africa went to EU and North American-based institutions, and only 14.5% to African institutions. Jesus. Yes, please make sure you continue to ignore your homes washing into the ocean. It's good. Everything is fine. It's all good. Insufficient financing is a key driver of adaptation gaps. High confidence. Annual finance flows targeting adaptation for Africa, for example, are billions of USD less than the lowest adaptation cost for estimates for near-term climate change. High confidence. Finance has not targeted more vulnerable countries and communities from 2014 to 2018. More finance commitments to developing countries were debt and then grants, and excluded multilateral development banks. Only 51% of commitments targeting adaptation were dispersed, compared to 85% for other development projects. Yeah, this kind of disputes this this claim by that other climate change denier that somehow there's like this overexertion of resources being diverted to climate change. It just kind of flies in the face of that. I'm so glad we read that article beforehand. Finance has not targeted more vulnerable countries. Okay, yes. But the proportion directed towards adaptation remains small. High confidence. In 2018, contributions were 0.05% of total climate finance and 1% of adaptation finance. Globally, private sector financing of adaptation has been limited, especially in developing countries. High confidence. Closing the adaptation gap requires moving beyond short-term planning and planning to move to developing long-term. Oh, and this is where we run into problems. Long-term planning? Oof. Yikes. How are we supposed to do long-term planning when short-term gains are the norm? They're the expectation. Yeah, just be a self-made millionaire. A self-made millionaire, flip underwater real estate like Aquaman, true. Or be like developers in South Florida who just continue to develop despite knowing the problem with the sea level rise. They're just trying to cash out before it all hits and make their bucks and leave. Closing adaptation gap requirements, moving beyond short-term planning to developing long-term concerted pathways and enabling conditions for ongoing adaptation to ensure timely and effective implementation, high confidence. Inclusive, equitable, and just adaptation pathways are critical for climate-resilient development. Such pathways require consideration of sustainable development goals, gender indigenous knowledge, local knowledge, and practices. The success of adaptation will depend on our understanding of which adaptation options are feasible and effective in their local context, high confidence. Long lead times for nature-based and infrastructure solutions or planned relocation require implementation in the coming decade to reduce risks and time. To close the adaptation gap, political commitment, persistence, and consistent action across scales of government and upfront mobilization of human and financial capital is key. High confidence. Even when benefits are not immediately visible, there's increased evidence on limits to adaptation, which results from the interaction of adaptation constraints and the speed of change. High confidence. In some natural systems, hard limits have been reached. Yikes. High confidence and more will be reached beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius. Medium confidence. Surpassing such hard evolutionary limits can cause local species extinction and displacements if suitable habitats exist. High confidence. Otherwise, species existence is at a very high risk. High confidence. In human-managed and natural systems, soft limits are already being experienced. High confidence. Financial constraints are key determinants of adaptation limits in human-managed systems, particularly in low-income settings. High confidence. While in natural systems, key determinants for limits are inherent traits of the species or ecosystems. High confidence. Adaptation limits can be differentiated into hard and soft limits. Soft limits are those for which no further adaptation options are feasibly current, but might become available in the future. Hard limits are those for which existing adaptation options will cease to be effective and additional options are not possible. Hard limits will increasingly emerge at higher levels of warming. High confidence, of course, that makes sense. Adaptation limits are shaped by constraints which can and cannot be overcome by adaptation actions or by the speed of which climate impacts unfold. Evidence and signals of the thresholds at which constraints result in limits is still sparse, and in human systems are expected to remain contested even with increased knowledge. High confidence. All right, folks, we are page 57. We are on page 57. All right, folks, unfortunately, that is all the time I have today. It is 11:28. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you so much for the follow, Dread Pirate Mexico. Thank you for all the support. Make sure you join the Discord. Make sure you hit up the YouTubes. It takes 5 seconds to hit the big red subscribe button. And consider checking out this month's sponsor. You have a good one. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Folks, on your way out, don't forget to hit the follow button. You get 5 free emotes. Spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us Saturdays for Saturday Catterdays around noon Eastern Time. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I'll be on. I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.